Do you ever get that sinking feeling that the people running your software company don't really know what they're doing? Well, stay tuned because today we're going to talk about 5 signs that your software business is led by amateurs. Hi, I'm Jamie Edwards, and I help software professionals and software companies to do a better job releasing their software, understanding what it is that their customers really want, and having an environment where people can be as creative and innovative as possible. Today we're going to talk about some signs that the people leading the company to build software may need some help. Now, to start this off, I know it can practically be a sport to make fun of the leadership for not understanding software development, and that's not really the goal of this video today. We are going to talk about some signs that are serious, and that if you do see these, probably do mean that you should help the business run the company better. Now, as a software developer, depending on the company you work for, you might feel really small, like a little cog in a giant wheel, especially if you work at a huge Fortune 50. But you have a decision to make as you progress in your career. You can really choose from 3 things. You can either put up with it as it is, you can try to change it, or you can leave. So if you're seeing several of these signs at the company you work at, you have a decision to make about how you want to move forward, because you probably are at a company that really needs some help at the leadership level. A lot of what software developers and other technologists know is just not a good idea in our business and in our industry. Typical managers who've never done our job, they just don't understand that. So it's really up to you to decide, do you want to stay in a company that doesn't understand modern software development and some of its implications? Or do you want to put the work in to help change things for the better? The first sign that your software company may be led by people that don't really know what they're doing in the software industry is they don't want to pay for tools or services that could save you or your team a ton of time. It's funny how I've worked at companies over my career where a team's working on a product and we go out and find a service or a tool or something in a website that we want to use that we've looked at and realized, oh my God, this would save us a ton of time. But when we pitch that or ask for it from whoever our manager is or whoever approves budget at the company, we might immediately get shut down. And I've tried to get better in my career at really trying to understand, if I even only know how much I'm being paid, maybe I don't know what all my coworkers are being paid, doing some basic math to help come up with a number on, if we go out and buy this tool or we go out and use this service, it pays for itself, let's say in 3 days of a developer's time or a week of a developer's time. The business often doesn't think this way. They're in such a reactionary mode if they don't really understand what they're doing that they just see the dollar amount of a tool you might want to use or a service that might help your team, and they might immediately shut it down just simply on price. So I'd encourage you to try to figure out, if you find a tool or a service that your team wants to use, put that in a dollar figure that the business can understand, and you'll have a much easier time selling them on it so that you can actually get that tool or service and use what you want on your team. The second sign that your leadership at the software business may really need some help and kind of be out of their league is if they have just a few big accounts that the whole business is dependent on. It's normal when you're starting up a new company that there aren't any customers, and one of the first things that's really important is to land those first few customers. But people who've never run a software company or a software business can often land those first couple customers and really let them drag them all over the place, controlling everything that the team does. And it becomes really frustrating and demoralizing to everybody, because at that point, you're giving too much power to one single customer or even just a few customers. So some of this can depend a little bit on the type of product that you're building. If that product has a really small target market, maybe there's only 1,000 or so people that can use it, but you're charging a lot of money for the product, it might make sense that you only have a few customers at first. But unless you only want to have a few customers, period, if the business puts all their, quote unquote, eggs in one basket with a customer or a small set of customers, it's really similar to if you invested in the stock market and you put all your money in just one or two stocks. It's a horrible idea, and it really puts the business into a situation where as soon as one of those customers or a couple of them walk, the whole business is at risk. So if you're seeing that sign at the company you work at, you really need to help the leadership understand that they're putting the business, the team, and the future of the company at risk if they don't find a way to scale the product out and meet the needs of their entire market, not just those first few customers. Very similar to the point above, the third sign that your software leadership really needs help and may not really know what they're doing running the company is they're unable to say no to any customer. It's often that I'm brought into a company that needs help with how they develop software that I look at their product backlog, and practically every idea a customer has ever come up with is in that backlog, and in the minds of the management, it's committed to. Now, if a company goes about just saying yes to everything that their customers want, they're not being strategic. One of the things that a product manager or a CEO or somebody who's driving a software product at a software company needs to do is make tough calls about what features make sense for the whole audience and what just don't, because one or two customers is yelling really loud that they want it, but it's not a good idea for the long-term vision of the product. So if you see your software company basically throwing every idea that their customers want into the queue of work to do, they may need some help with just modern basic product management disciplines to really go about thinking about their software product as a product for their entire market and not just whatever customer's paying them and shouts the loudest at the time. The fourth sign that the company you work at may not have leadership that really understand how to run a software company is they have a high acquisition cost per customer. What do I mean by this? Well, if you have software, for example, that's for online banking, let's say, and every time you acquire a new customer, it's as simple as going in and flipping a couple configuration settings in your website, or maybe running a script and coming up with some simple logins, and it literally takes your team, minutes to get that new customer ready to go. Better yet, it's completely automated, right? Somebody signs up through the web and puts in all their information. You have a SaaS product, and boom, they're ready to go. That's going to be a scalable product that as you acquire new customers, the cost of each new customer you acquire is fairly cheap. Now, again, this isn't taking into consideration things like advertising. It really is just talking about what's the engineering cost. Do you have to actually involve developers and ops people and maybe integration teams and technologists to bring on a new customer? Or is it all really pretty seamless and it's part of your core architecture of your product? If, however, every time you get a new customer, you have to go through a huge process that may take a team, let's say, to onboard that customer. I've actually worked for clients before where when they acquired a new customer, it took 6 to 9 months before anyone at that customer could even begin to use the product. If that's the amount of money that's spent to bring on a new customer, some more immature companies may not even know how to do the math to figure out what's that really costing us in support, labor cost of the people doing the work, additional infrastructure, all the things. So they really just push along and it's part of their business model, but it's not scalable. At some point, they sort of hit this wall where we can't grow anymore as a business. We can't really profit fast enough unless we dramatically re-engineer and re-architect the product. And if you're working at a company whose acquisition cost for customers is in that kind of a situation, you're unfortunately at a company where over time, they're probably going to become less profitable, or at least the amount of profit that they're making is going to start shrinking. And you know what that means? That means more pressure, less money to go around to reward all the people who are doing hard work, and just overall poor economic health for the company. So that could be a sign that the company you're working for also really doesn't have leadership in place that's making smart decisions about how they manage the business. And the fifth and final sign that the company you work at may have leadership that really needs help running their software businesses, they commit to deadlines without really understanding what's involved. This is a huge topic, and I could do a whole series of videos on this. But if you've been out there developing software, even for just a few years, you know that it's kind of often that under pressure, sometimes work is handed down to the engineering team, and the engineering team gets that work and says, I can't build this. I don't understand enough about what you really want. And also often, sometimes they'll even find out that the management has actually told a customer that that feature or idea or something about the software is going to be ready by a certain date to make a sale. This is a horrible way to run a software business. It basically burns out developers and engineering people. It demoralizes everyone, and it also makes the leadership look like fools to their employees. Because if you think about it, what if I went to my mechanic and asked him to fix something about my engine, and when he told me how he was going to fix it, I said, no, I don't want you to fix it that way. I want you to go against the guidelines that you know are going to keep me safe in my car because I want to spend less money. And I told someone I need to pick them up in an hour, even though you say my car is going to take a week to get fixed. That's literally what some leadership at software companies are essentially saying to the rest of the business. So if you're running a software company out there, or you're in a leadership position, you're doing that to your employees, know that they're probably looking at you like you don't know what the hell you're doing. And the only way to really get out of that is to actually defer any kind of deadline commitments to engineering and all the people that need to be involved to make really good decisions about how long it's going to take. Now, another reason why this could be a problem is you might not have people working at your company, especially if it's a small team of maybe more junior developers, that really can even estimate the effort very well. You know, earlier in my career, when someone would ask me how long something was going to take to do, I could tell them about how long it would take to do the coding part of it if it was something that I could put my arms around, but I often didn't think about what does it take to test that? How long is it going to take for people to approve it if we're not doing continuous delivery or something like that? I mean, sometimes you'll have a key person that's part of your release process and they don't get back to you for 2 days, and now you look like an idiot because your estimate was off. So not giving a chance for the engineering team and everybody who's going to do the work to actually validate to the business that a commitment they want to make is even feasible, again, just makes the leadership look like fools to the people doing the work. And if you're in a position where you're actually leading software engineers and that's the way that you work, you're just going to demoralize them and continue to create a divide where they don't really trust you. And that's probably not a culture that you want to invest in long term at your company. So what are some of the signs that you've seen that indicate that the leadership at your company may not really know what they're doing? Are they falling into some of these patterns that I talk about, these signs that I've seen, unfortunately, many times at immature leadership at software businesses? Do you have some other things that you've seen patterns of from company to company to company that you went to? Part of the reason I'm sharing these things with you is it's really easy for us as software developers to complain, but if you can actually explain this to your leadership and help them understand, look, I'm not telling you that we need to work differently because I want to work not as hard. or because I'm trying to make excuses. Because often, you know, especially if you work at a company that's more traditional command and control, they're just going to look at it like, I need to put my finger on my software developers and, you know, watch everybody and make sure they're working as hard as possible, because they don't really understand that software development is knowledge work. It's not like flipping burgers or something like that. But it's really kind of up to you to get through to them and help them understand why they may be making decisions that are just really poor short-term decisions. And if after explaining that to them and getting to know those people and really trying to bridge the gap in the relationship, getting them to respect you, there's just no progress that seems to be being made, well, then you may have to make the tough decision to either just accept the circumstances for what they are or find a better opportunity where you can really be treated better and grow and maybe be a little less frustrated. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up below. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.